Welcome to Radio Row at Super Bowl 59, ahead of this huge game on Sunday night, live and exclusive in stadium coverage for UK radio here on talkSPORT. I'm delighted to say that we've got a huge show for you first and foremost today. We're going to be speaking with Kurt Warner, Dante Hall, Pat Mahomes, Fred Warner, Torrey Smith, DeAndre Hopkins, all coming up on the show today. And yet to kickstart things, we've got the two biggest names of all. We've got Greg Rosenthal and we've got Jourdan Rodrigue from NFL Daily and beat writer for the LA Rams. How you doing, guys?
What a guest list.
I know. I kind of just want to get out of your way. Yeah. Patrick Mahomes?
Holy hell.
We got 5 or 6 minutes with Pat the other day. We talked to him about Michael Jordan. It was fascinating. Really, really good stuff.
Another potential future Hall of Famer, and Nuke Hopkins. I mean, Will is just bigger and bigger every year this show.
I love Torrey Smith, by the way. One of my favorite people ever. Just a fantastic person. Just life conversations, football conversations. Just absolutely beautiful human being.
Also, one of the biggest football nerds here. Like,
yes.
Every year he comes and joins us and sits here and goes, "Oh my God, that's Barry Sanders."
Yeah,
like, he gets
he's like everybody's hype guy. Like he loves everybody. Everybody loves him. He's awesome.
Not Josh Allen's hype guy. He was very vocal about the atrocity that happened to his guy Lamar Jackson.
The atrocity.
He was pretty aggressive about it, more than anyone else.
Well, look, you're marveling at our guest list, supposedly. NFL Daily have been killing it this week as well, sir.
A lot of fun. Our show that is up. It was our Friday morning show. It was Puka Nacua, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, Jordan Love, and Jaden Daniels. That was.
So we're having a guest.
That was it.
We're having a guest off
yeah,
here.
Yeah, this is. Yeah,
like
let's go.
Whose guest is
Sorry,
bigger
I
than
don't know why I'm
whose?
promoting.
No, I absolutely love it. Look, as two ball knowers, as you are, the thing we've been asking all the people who join us on the desk and the more kind of analyst side of the game is what is the one matchup, the one coaching battle, the one player, the one thing from this game this weekend that's getting you super hyped?
I mean, I am geeking out in unhealthy levels over the coordinator battle in this one. Like, minus Kellen Moore, like he can just sort of we're going to put him to the side. But Matt Nagy and Andy Reid as a combo versus Vic Fangio, Steve Spagnuolo versus, everything that the Eagles want to try to do on offense. It's just fascinating to me. These two systems are built to oppose each other perfectly. They almost are like puzzle pieces, schematically speaking, that fit in different ways between what Andy Reid and the Chiefs like to do on offense and what Vic Fangio and the Eagles like to do on defense. It almost is like one would fit perfectly within the other. The short game, the screens fitting into that like umbrella shell defense that Fangio likes to play. But I wouldn't be surprised to see them mix it up a little bit. You're going to have to and show some unscouted looks. And it's fascinating to me because these are also the two defensive coordinators on both sides, Spags and Vic Fangio, two of the best in the game and kind of in their like second wind, their like resurgence of their careers, which is great. I love seeing it.
To go ever so slightly to bat for Kellen Moore, which is not something I've done any other time this week, so I don't know why I've suddenly taken it upon myself. The guy can draw up a play. Like, he does things which look very pretty and it's calling the right play at the right moment seems to have been his problem. And there have been a few games this season where it looks like it's clicked and it's come together. And I'm like, oh, that was a really good drive. Go on, Kellen. Like, I kind of want to believe in him a little bit because clearly he's watched the film of other people and picked up on all these great ideas and it's just not quite got there.
I mean, in his defense, it's one of the best rushing attacks we've ever seen.
Well, absolutely.
And the passing game is essentially the same passing game that it is every year with Jalen Hurts, which makes you think it's more about Jalen Hurts. Not that it's all bad. Plenty of it's good. But it's essentially very consistent year to year.
All I'm saying is that in the battle of the old dudes, Kellen Moore is a little bit of an outlier here, right?
Okay.
And so he could be a wild card in this. We could see one of his best calls all year. I've been frustrated with him at times, the way he's called games. But at the same time, you can't argue. He's super bright. He knows how to put an offense together against Steve Spagnuolo. We'll see how it goes.
I think the longer they've covered the NFL, the more you realize, like, within the teams, they're just thinking about, like, the third down plan, like which team's going to have a better third down plan essentially against the other. And that's to what Jordan is talking about. And, like, in Mahomes, like, there's no great plan for what he does on third down because that's when he decides to kind of do his magic.
Do his own thing, yeah, absolutely. But I also think from an Eagles perspective that, if we're going to talk about the superstars, I've heard a lot this week about how the Chiefs, they are the lowest rate of explosive runs given up in the whole of the league. Fantastic. But if Saquon Barkley's getting 8 yards, that's still going to suck. And that's
Right.
still going to put you in 2nd and 2 and 3rd and short and everything else.
Yeah, part of the reason why they're not giving up explosive run plays is because they have a great, like, kind of old school, new school blend of linebackers, and they don't let players get past the 2nd level very frequently, even if they by some chance get past the 1st level, where Chris Jones is just standing, like this behemoth in the middle of the defense. And so that's why the Chiefs don't allow a lot of explosive plays. They also have willing corners and safeties who are willing to come down and tackle when needed. But when Saquon Barkley carries the ball at least 20 times in a game, it does not matter if he doesn't break an explosive. He's always going over 100 yards. That's just statistically fact from the season. And then him in the passing game as well, I think, is one thing that people are not talking enough about, not just what he can do, as a pass catcher, as a skill receiver, and especially given outlet for some of those blitzes that we know Spags is going to send. But as a pass protector, Greg and I geek out over this all the time, just watching how teams have to adjust their entire rush plan when they do send extra pressure to account for whenever Saquon is on or off the field, because he's that effective as a blocker as well.
Also, I don't care about their rushing numbers over the season. It's the flip side of their offense. I don't care about their offensive numbers over the season. They're way better now than they were before.
I almost caught the Greg hand. Did
Right.
you see it? I've been on guard all week.
In the playoffs, they've stunk. I mean, James Cook lit him up. Joe Mixon lit him up. On outside runs, I think it's something like 19 carries for 130 yards in the playoffs, like over and over and over. They're not maintaining their gaps. They are giving up, maybe not plus 20s, but a lot of bad runs. And so as much as the Chiefs' offense has improved, the defense, especially on the ground, has been just like, okay, I would say at the end of the year, that the defense has been a little like up and down. It's definitely not the defense that they've had last year.
Is there a sneaky matchup maybe that we're not talking about? Like, you haven't heard people getting out there and throwing out as like a... I feel like this week you end up dissecting everything. I mean, we sat and had about a 15-minute conversation just about Jalen Carter and Trey Smith the other day.
I love that.
Which I could not have
My
got...
kind of show. Yeah, my kind of show.
Nerds around here. But, like, is there something that maybe you've not heard people talk about that you think that could be a game changer in this one?
I don't think people are talking enough. I don't think people have talked enough. I mean, you guys probably have, but
We've talked a lot of football.
I know
this
that we
week.
have as well. But when you're taking Joe Thuney and you're moving him to that left tackle spot, like, yes, Creed Humphrey is a badass, right? But in the middle. But when you are taking a really, really good interior player and moving him outside, you leave the interior of your line vulnerable. And where does Chris Jones feast? The thing is, though, is I think people think that that's just the straightforward matchup that they'll try to scheme him in, but they've moved Chris Jones all over the defensive line, and he can rush from anywhere. So it's almost like keep away from Creed and Joe, and then you can move Chris Jones. And then George Karlaftis is now someone you do have to account for on that side too, because it's just fascinating to see the trench battles and the navigation between both of these teams. You're going to have to play keep away from Jalen Carter, right? Who you would think would just go straight forward into Creed Humphrey, but can also move between the nose and some of those gaps on the other side, on either side of the center, instead of just like directly lining up over the center. And then all of the trenches and the outside rush plan, and then stretching the field wide with Saquon Barkley on those outside runs that you mentioned. I do think that this Chiefs offensive line is just going to have their hands full, and they've made certain areas vulnerable where you would think that they would have a mathematical advantage.
With all of that in mind that we've discussed and everything else this week, and I think you hit the nail on the head earlier. They're so designed to be strength on strength, and they're like, these two teams have been built to beat each other almost. Do you see it being as tight as we all think it's going to be this weekend?
I could see Philadelphia winning by a couple scores.
Do they have to win by a couple scores almost?
It sort of feels that way.
If they're not 2 touchdowns up with 5-6 minutes to go.
Or they could give up.
As a 49ers fan, I know that you do not have a fourth quarter lead against the Chiefs.
Or they could give up like a late score,
it.
kind of like that Bills-Chiefs game, which, by the way, it's like they've won 17 straight one-score games. Some of that is a little random that, like, the Chiefs didn't get that final score when they're down 9 or whatever in Buffalo this year, the game that they lose. But I think they play so well with the lead. And you mentioned matchups. You know who I haven't heard talked about all week this week? Jaden Hicks, Brian Cook, like Shamari Connor, Jalen Watson, Najee Johnson. This is not like a great secondary in terms of their depth. So I am really curious, like, how aggressive they're going to be Philadelphia throwing either with a lead or just throughout. Because I actually think that's as good of a matchup for them one-on-one when you just think about the talent of Devonta Smith in the slot and Dallas Goedert against that Chiefs secondary. But maybe I'm just wishful thinking, not wanting the Chiefs to win and seeing all these mismatches.
And that was a really nice, concise point you made, Greg, unlike me, and as I jumped across lines and different positions and trying to talk about the trench battle. So good for that's why he's the host of our show. But it's interesting because the Eagles have, one of the worst, if not the worst, explosive pass offenses in the league right now, and that's fine. They've been running the ball. They kind of shifted their identity. But against this Chiefs secondary, as Greg mentioned, you want to pass. You want to throw the ball downfield. So that'll be fascinating. I actually think it'll be close because I just think it'll be a defensive battle on both sides.
I'm excited, really excited. Greg's joining us on the call on Sunday, of course, as well. He's going to be our third man in the booth. How hyped are you?
I am so excited. One of my favorite moments of my professional life is that moment where Cooper Kupp gets the end around in the Super Bowl in Los Angeles, and I was on the talkSPORT call at that time, and I just want to have one of those types of moments again. It was also with you when Kadarius Toney had that return against the Eagles.
Absolutely. Both of the Mahomes runs, all of it, and hopefully we get big plays like that. It's going to have to be in the first half, sadly, but at least hopefully we get those big moments on Sunday. And I just wanted to bring up one more thing before we let these guys go. Earlier in the season, Jourdan and Colleen on your show talked about their adoration of a great British snack. Maybe not even a snack, a great British meal. The baked beans on toast.
Yes.
Right? Jourdan, then when I listen, I love when you do your show live because it means at 4 a.m. in the UK when I've finished in the studio, I can jump in the car, plug my phone in on YouTube, obviously not watch it, I'm driving, but like have it on like it's the podcast live. And I just messaged in at the end, I thought for a bit of fun. You brought me up on the show and Jourdan went, oh, I love him, the baked bean guy. That's who I am to you now.
The beans on toast guy.
Okay, I can take that.
That is a huge adoration from me. Like, I love that because I caught so many interesting comments from just saying that one simple thing. I love baked beans in the teal can, Heinz in the teal can, on a thick slice of sourdough fried
Yeah,
pan.
but Will is more than that. He's a host. He's an analyst. He's a mind.
It's like the highest compliment I could pay him.
He's a husband. He's a father. He's a lover. Like, he's more than just the beans on toast guy.
That being said, can I just do my my little Oprah Winfree moment? If you'd just like to reach under the table, Jourdan.
Wait, oh my God. Are you serious?
God.
And just grab yourself.
You even got
the
the ones
proper
that I like.
ones from home, the real British ones. And I'm going to give you a tip, right? I find the Heinz ones quite sugary. Put a bit of dark soy sauce in while you're cooking them up. Caramelizes a little bit, get a little bit of the extra flavor in there. Yeah.
One of your 5 a day.
Exactly. There you go.
Guys, thank you so much.
Jourdan Rodrigue,
God.
Greg Rosenthal will be on our call on Sunday as we bring you live and exclusive in-stadium coverage on talkSPORT. And up next, we're going to see how some of the great and the good from around the NFL think the game's going to go this weekend. You're watching our big Super Bowl preview here on the talkSPORT Smart TV network, also across our YouTube channels, and you can see the big game and hear the big game live on talkSPORT this weekend from 10:30 p.m. Greg Rosenthal, who was just with us, the brilliant Jourdan Rodrigue as well, thank you to them. Greg Rosenthal will be part of our call, Jeff Reinbold as well, as we build up to this huge game on Sunday night. Really can't call it either way. So let's hear from some of the great and the good who are involved in this weekend's game and see what direction they're going with it. And we'll start off with some big names from the potential three-peat. The Kansas City Chiefs. Earlier this week, our writer Brian T. Smith caught up with Chiefs wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins. And first, superstar quarterback Patrick Mahomes.
100%. I think that at any level, to have that much level of success is crazy. And so for him to be able to win the three-peat, take time off, come back to basketball again and do it again, I mean, something that probably will never be done again in any sport. And I'm going to try to continue to win this game this weekend and continue to have success, but I couldn't even envision being able to do that.
It's meant the world to me for this organization to come get me from Tennessee. Really not having a lot of things on film from this year. So for me, man, it's just those guys believed in me. In the first game I played, the first third down, they came to me against the Raiders, which was a big third down. And then, the second game, the rest speaks for itself. I think I might have had, 2 touchdowns, or I think my second game here. And so, for me, man, it was like, wow, these guys see something in me that, I kind of almost lost hope in myself.
Patrick Mahomes and the great DeAndre Hopkins, that Mahomes, Michael Jordan stuff, absolutely fascinating. I remember Thierry Henry coming and joining us on Radio Row a couple of years ago and really talking about like the mentality of a winner and why he thought Mahomes was going to win the game last year. And look, it's fascinating to see how those top tier athletes interact. But we need to give some love to the Eagles side of things, right? We're doing our best of Radio Row coverage, and we spoke with NFL Network host Colleen Wolfe, Raiders running back Alexander Mattison, who was speaking to Will Varney. And first, I caught up with the former Eagles Super Bowl champion, Torrey Smith, and all three of them are backing the Eagles.
This is the year they get over the hump. I think they're extremely hot in the way they're playing. I think Jalen Hurts is playing at a very high level right now.
Best game in 2 years probably last weekend, right?
He's healthy. Which is huge, and all of that is going to pour in, and going to be the reason why they win. And by the way, they had this running back by the name of Saquon Barkley.
Never heard of him.
Who has been a game changer. Even just his mindset, this moment on the sideline, he's like one of the best people that you can ever be around. And I think having that type of leadership, even just that one person, like, is a transformative leader and player for this team.
Just tell me, why are the Eagles going to win on Sunday?
Why? Because they have two things that they didn't have the last time that the Eagles and Chiefs played each other in the Super Bowl, and that would be Saquon Barkley and Vic Fangio running this defense. And honestly, Zach Bond, too, who unbelievably had this career resurgence out of nowhere and now comes back to the city that he played for as a special teamer to play in the Super Bowl as an All-Pro. That's a really cool story.
It's unreal. It's video game-like. It really is, and I'm just super proud to see it happening for a running back. I'm super proud to see it happening for a guy like him who's been through some adversity, who's had his fair share of the short end of the stick throughout his career. And it's just a beautiful story that's written, and what better ending than to go get the MVP and to stamp running backs back on the market and back in style. Yeah, it's been a great season for running backs. It's been a great season for Saquon, and I think that he has a chance to really put the icing on the cake.
Back on our big Super Bowl 59 preview here on talkSPORT with me, Will Gavin. Brian T. Smith will be joining us a little bit later to pick apart which direction we think this game is going to go. We're getting hyped for it. It was on us last night, and so we'll be hearing from some of the guys on the red carpet, and Akbar Bajabir Miller will be joining us. And I genuinely think if you ask down this entire building, people would be 50-50 split on whether it's going to be Eagles or Chiefs this weekend. But let's hear from those who are backing the Kansas City Chiefs to make history this weekend, to hit the three-peat. We're going to hear from the former Chiefs wide receiver and great kick returner, Dante Hall, coming up. He was speaking with Jay Lawrence. But first, Hall of Famer and Super Bowl champion quarterback Kurt Warner. Jalen had his best game of the season last weekend, and arguably his best game probably since Super Bowl 57. The Chiefs are going to be looking to limit Saquon Barkley. We know they're good against explosive runs. Like, we can break down that side of the ball and what Spags does brilliantly. How much would you back Jalen Hurts against a Steve Spagnuolo defense to be able to do what he did last week and perform on this stage?
I think if they keep him in his wheelhouse, meaning you win the early downs, you keep him in movement, the RPO game, the rollouts, the kind of simplified passing game, I think Jalen will play extremely well. If they lose early downs and it becomes a blitz fest by Spags against Jalen Hurts, I don't think that lends itself to what Jalen is best at. So I think that's the important part. Do I worry about Jalen Hurts having to throw the football to win this game? Absolutely not. If it's in the scenarios that you want him to throw the football in, but you get behind the chains, you get behind in points, and I just, not that Jalen Hurts can't do it. It's just that they haven't had to depend on that, and that would be concerning to me a little bit. But I love Jalen, and I think Jalen does so many things well. I think he's going to play another really good football game.
I'm sure that a lot of people have been speaking about Travis Kelce. Is he the best tight end to ever do it?
I'm going to go with yes. I mean, you have some great ones. Gronk is up there. Shannon Sharp is up there. Mike Dichter. But I think I don't know, it's tough not to say Travis, right? Tomato, really.
Yeah.
But if you say he's the GOAT, I'm on board.
The thoughts there of Dante Hall, Kurt Warner, brilliant stuff from them. Look, we could get really deep in the X's and O's of this. You heard from Jourdan and Greg earlier on the show. If you haven't, check it out on our YouTube channel, talkSPORT End Zone, because it was a really interesting chat. But I think one of the key matchups in this game we talked about with Ross Tucker, which is that Eagles defensive line against the Chiefs offensive line. And Ross is one of the best to break these things down as a former lineman himself. So let's hear what he had to say.
And the answer is right guard Trey Smith for the Kansas City Chiefs against defensive tackle Jalen Carter for the Philadelphia Eagles. So because Joe Tooney, a left guard by trade, is playing left tackle, they've had to slide the line to the left more. For people that aren't as familiar, they're basically having 3 guys for 2. The center, left guard, left tackle can block those 2 guys with an eye on a linebacker. That's going to make for a lot of one-on-ones for Trey Smith and Jalen Carter. These guys are 2 of my favorite players in the NFL because they're playing for keeps.
I mean, Trey Smith is going to get paid this
highest paid offensive guard in NFL history.
Yeah.
Yeah, he will be in a month and a half. I think it'll be the Titans. Maybe the Bears, but he's going to happen. This guy, I'm a huge believer in having an enforcer. I don't know if soccer has an equivalent. I know hockey does, but
soccer you have a holding midfielder.
You need to have a bully. You need to have a guy that the guys on their team are afraid of a little bit. Mm-hmm. They're looking around for him. Here's the thing for the Eagles, Jalen Carter is a bad boy. Have you seen some of the hit? Who was that last week? Biotis, he smoked him in the face. It's why Jalen Carter is so good. He's got that nasty dog in him, right? But Trey Smith doesn't back down from anybody. So what I want people to do is during the game, watch number 65, Kansas City in white, right guard against 98 in green. Jalen Carter, who's a maybe second-team All-Pro, incredible matchup. They should go one-on-one a lot in the game, and it should be fantastic.
The brilliant Ross Tucker there. He was even bidding for a job with talkSPORT by the end of that interview, so maybe you'll see more of him on the channel in the future. Who knows? Right, let's finish off with a bit of a fun one. He's a future Hall of Famer. He's the best linebacker in the league. He plays for the 49ers, and he's my new best friend. Fred Warner joined us on Radio Row and had a pretty valid reason for not wanting to pick a team in this weekend's matchup. Do you find yourself having a real interest? Do you have somebody you want to win and not win, or
not at all? No, I hope both lose. That's what I keep saying. If there's a way for that to happen, I would love that to happen. But there's no love lost between either of these teams when it comes to how I feel about both of them. It's going to be a great game, though. I expect to be a hard-fought battle between both teams. Obviously, the Chiefs have been there and done that. Eagles are loaded all over the place. I don't know if they have a weakness on their roster. So it's going to be a really good game.
Fred Warner there, brilliant stuff. That full interview will be available on talkSPORT End Zone, our dedicated NFL YouTube channel, and he is always absolutely fantastic. Coming up, we're going to be breaking down the game with Brian T. Smith, making our final picks, but up next, we're going to talk about Thursday night's honors, the MVP, the big awards with NFL Network's Akbar Bajabiamila. It's our big Super Bowl preview here on talkSPORT. Will Gavin, we're back on Radio Row, and Greg and Jourdan have just gone to take a little rest because we're going to talk some NFL honors, and to do so, we've brought a good friend of ours along, host of American Ninja Warrior and NFL Network talent, Akbar Bajabiamila. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing so good. I'm so happy to be here in New Orleans. This is it. This is the culmination of 17 weeks of hard work, and it's so cool to be here.
I mean, before we do get into the honor stuff, how are you feeling about the game this weekend? How are you seeing this matchup? What's from all the conversations you're having? Have you been swayed one way or the other this week?
No. I've been very resolute since the very beginning, and this is something I'm really, really looking forward to. I think there is this narrative that I think people are trying to overcorrect. And, people are, the Eagles. And no disrespect to the Eagles. I absolutely love everyone on the Eagles. I love Saquon Barkley and what this has meant to him. I love what Howie Roseman has done. But I think we're in a really special moment in the NFL, to have this league for the very first time have its opportunity to see a three-peat, to be able to get to this moment. We've not even had the opportunity to get to this point where we go, there's an opportunity for a team who's won back-to-back to even make it back to the Super Bowl and then to be able to play and have the opportunity to win three-peat. I want to see it in my lifetime because I tell you now, when this three-peat happens, we won't see it again in our lifetime. We won't see it again in our lifetime. That's how rare it is because of the parity in the NFL.
I would absolutely agree, but Patrick Mahomes makes me go, well, we said so much about Brady. We're never going to see anyone do this again, and he might have won 4 in the first before he's even 30. And suddenly I'm like, oh, maybe we are going to see someone do it again.
I mean, just think about the rarity, because if they don't win this game, you don't get back to this point. You don't get back to a three-peat. You just don't. You know, maybe another team might have that opportunity to do it, but you don't get to the point where you have a three-peat again. And there's no better team that is equipped for this moment right now than the Kansas City Chiefs. And a lot of it has to do with the unseen adversity that they've dealt with all season long. You know, like the fact that these games have been so close, they've dealt with a lot of adversity. Hadn't had the big popping offense that we've seen. They've had a defense that has really carried them through. And I look at this and going, you know what? They're built for this moment. They're healthier now. I love when Andy Reid said, we're all accounted for. We're all accounted for. So, you know, with the exception of Rashee Rice, they're all accounted for.
Right, let's talk last night at Honors. And I think what for many was a big shock, because they'd seen the All-Pro voting, but Josh Allen comes up as the MVP. How does that sit with you? Would it have been your call for that award?
Yeah, I thought, you know, the award was going to go to Lamar Jackson and for everything that he's done. But it also makes sense that Josh Allen won. I had a chance earlier in the year to go to a Buffalo game, and I actually hit up 3 games in one day, and it was really cool.
Right.
You know, I flew around going to different games, and I had a chance to see Josh Allen. And I spent some time with his quarterback coach, who's a former teammate of mine, Ronald Curry. And we really started to talk about not just the player, but, you know, that's what we see. We all have seen it. We all witnessed it. But I wanted to know the player behind and the preparation and how he handles his business week to week. And I walked away going, yo, this dude is the real deal, because it validated what I've seen already on tape, on film, and watching what he's done. So the numbers that he was able to put up, the way he plays the game, the way he carries this team on his shoulder, on his back, he absolutely deserves it. So when I look at this, Josh Allen, it was going to come between those two. No doubt about it. It was going to come between them. There's also an argument for Saquon Barkley as well, but I get it. This is now turned into a quarterback award, right? They can change the name if they want to, NQP, whatever, you know, NDQP, whatever. But I look at this. Josh Allen absolutely deserves it for everything he's struggled against the Chiefs, and especially in the playoffs, and we know that history. But this dude is a real player, and it's about time that we start putting that respect on his name. Earlier in the year, they actually said, I don't know if people remember this, that he was the most overrated quarterback in the NFL. We started the year saying he was the most overrated quarterback in the year. Not anymore. Like, put some respect on that man's name.
We were at Honors last night. We walked the red carpet. We spoke to a few of the guys coming in as well. And one award that I'm always a huge fan of is the Walker-Payton Man of the Year. Let's hear from Arik Armstead, who went on to win the award, but talked to us on the red carpet as a guy who'd been nominated 5 straight years in San Francisco and now nominated his first year in Jacksonville, about how much it meant to him.
It's a huge honor to be, a nominee this many years. I take it with great pride. You're representing the organization, and there's a whole host of guys who try to do the right things and, be examples for their community, and, being honored alongside of them is great.
Arik Armstead with us on the red carpet. I mean, what a lovely human being he is. And the Walker-Payton Man of the Year, I think it really showcases how much the NFL gives back to the community.
Yeah, and it is so to see Armstead and, for him to win the Walter Payton Award. It says, the name itself carries a lot, but I think it's also understanding what the players, the responsibility that they have, not only to be that athlete and be available and show up every day for their team, but to show up for their community. I truly believe this, and I've said this a lot. The best of us must help the rest of us, and he truly embodies what that means. And there are a lot of all the candidates who were, for the Walter Payton Award, all of those guys across the league. There's so many guys. If it's their football camps, or if it's them paying attention to people who are going through illnesses, or being able to give out to those who are less fortunate. So many guys have come from backgrounds where they get that. They're not lost in the millions of dollars that they make. They're not lost in the glitz and the glamour and the lights and the red carpet. these are guys who are truly grounded and rooted in, not for fame, not for anything else. It's because they genuinely care. So the best of us must help the rest of us. Congratulations to Eric Armstead.
And look, Kevin O'Connell, Coach of the Year. We spoke with a few of the Vikings
Love
on the Red
Kevin.
Carpet last night. Huge fan of that. Yep, Jaden Daniels, Defensive Rookie of the Year, might be the most nailed-on award that we'd had in recent years. So phenomenal was his run. Saquon Barkley, Defensive Player of the Year. But I want to talk about the defensive side, and we're going to hear from two guys here. We're going to hear from, first of all, Kobe Turner, second-year defensive lineman of the Los Angeles Rams, about the impact that Jared Verse has had on their team. And then Pat Surtain Sr. on just how proud he is of his son, who is now the Defensive Player of the Year. You and Jared Verse meeting on the red carpet might be one of the highlights so far. It feels like it's a really fun room. Do you guys have fun?
We have a lot of fun, man, and you know it's a lot more fun because we're all peers. I mean, I'm 1 grade older than, or not 1 grade, 1 year in the league older than those guys. We have a young group, and we bring a lot of energy. So it's a lot of fun to be able to go out there to celebrate with those guys. Everybody has a unique celebration, and to just be able to share the field with those guys, man, it means a lot.
Oh man, it's an extremely surreal moment. Just a proud papa, because I've been there every step of the way, from little league to high school to college, and now for him to have this type of success so early on in his career, man, it's just a testament to the kind of player and the kind of person he is.
Kobe Turner, Pat Surtain, honestly, the Broncos run this year, so much focus on Bo Nix and his development over the year, but they have got themselves a lockdown corner who's going to be very special for years to come.
Yeah, Patrick Surtain is the real deal. I love watching tape and watching him and seeing how offenses are steering away from him, and when they go towards him, how he's always ready to really stand up and deliver when he's being tested, and doesn't fall far from the tree. The DNA is there. You see it, absolutely. But I think the other thing, too, is his intelligence of the game. He's always finding a way to put himself in that right situation. But I think about Patrick Surtain II, and I say this. For a young man to come in to have that type of impact on a team and to be able to change that defense in a way that gives that offense a better opportunity to get back on the field, I say kudos to him. You mentioned Kobe Turner and what Jared Verse and all those guys. That is probably one of the best lines I've seen, young lines I've seen in a very long time.
Cheapest defense in the NFL,
right? But on top of that, they had to replace Aaron Donald. Do you know how hard that is? That is extremely hard to go, you know what? You can't replace him with one man, so we're going to replace him with 2 or 3 guys. And we're going to get 2 guys who are going to be guys who played together in college, so they have that built-in synergy. And it showed a lot. So I like those guys showing off their experience at a very young age.
Akbar Bajabiamila, thank you so much for your time. Brilliant stuff. The brilliant Akbar Bajabiamila with us. Right, coming up, we're going to make our picks for the big game. Sunday night live on talkSPORT from 10:30. Super Bowl 59. Our picks coming up. Welcome back to our big Super Bowl 59 preview here on talkSPORT Smart TV channel, on our YouTube channel with talkSPORT's dedicated NFL YouTube channel, talkSPORT End Zone. And this whole week at Radio Row has been absolutely wild. We're now just 2 days away from the game kicking off pretty much. I'm Will Gavin, and we had to finish the season as we started it with Brian T. Smith alongside me. I say finish it. We're going to be doing another show on Sunday night, Brian. But who are we going to be dancing around in the ticker tape of as we do it?
What if it's at 4 a.m. and it's gone into quadruple overtime, right? I mean, that's where it feels like this whole thing is going to go. Well, I can tell that we've been here for about a week because I'm going to be on the spot. I'm always real, and you're sounding a little hoarse in a good professional way, which means you've been spending some time in New Orleans, man, and it's getting in your blood. I love it.
It is a city that can chew you up and spit you out. We had a wild time last night. Not like wild as in, crazy, drunk and didn't like. But we ended up at Lafitte's on Bourbon Street. George Kittle came in.
Of course he did.
I've got a bit of a rapport with George from doing some
I heard
Zooms
you're
and
a
stuff with
49ers
him.
fan. Yes,
so,
everyone knows.
Dapped me up. Complimented the beard. It was a lovely moment.
That's fantastic.
Jelly Roll turned up. I don't know if you're familiar with his work. But
the popular musician that all the kids like? Yes, I am familiar with Jelly Roll.
So he came in with George Kittle.
Oh, my gosh.
There was a karaoke machine
no wonder you're hoarse.
This bar, and Jelly Roll performed.
Are you making this up?
On the karaoke machine. No, I have the full video.
That is amazing. I did not know that.
Yeah, so That's just a little flavor.
For the record, I was asleep at that point. I was working for another story for talkSPORT.com. I didn't get to hang out with Jelly Roll and George Kittle, but congrats. That's why you're hoarse. I love it. This is what happens at Radio Row in the Super Bowl when we have the Chiefs and the Eagles and history and revenge, and it's all there. And I remember when I was a kid, I definitely went through a point, like I love the Super Bowl, was obsessed with it, but I definitely went through a point like early in my media career, which is now 20 plus years ago, where I was like the person who was like, okay, there's too much hype, right? Because they went to the 2 weeks off, basically the bye week, and it's just like, let's just play the game. And I'm going to tell you, when you're in the middle of it, when you're here, when the matchup's this good, when it's history versus the Eagles and the Philly fan base, I could have this for a month. Like this to me is more a heavyweight fight. The World Cup. We talked about all this stuff before. There's a reason I say the NFL is so big, because you can do all this and you really don't run out of stuff to do and cover, because it's as much a show, Will, as it's about the game.
But we talked about this a little bit earlier this week with some of the guys who are here who have a background in soccer, in our football.
Yep.
And we're like, they don't do this for World Cups when there are 64 matches being played. Yep. We're doing this for one game, for 60 minutes, for 3 hours of broadcast time, and yet you are here. And okay, in the world of content, we're getting stuff that we can use for weeks and months beyond this, right? But it is phenomenal, the size of and scope and scale of this thing.
I wish we could show this place. I mean, it is literally an airplane hangar.
Cuts to B-roll of the place.
You could have multiple airplanes in this place and still play a football game. And for me, God bless America, I love America, but this to me, it is a truly American experience. And some people hate it and a lot of people love it, but they understand how to put on a show. You put it in New Orleans, you do all this, and it is just endless entertainment, and it's endless content. It promotes the NFL. I'm doing a story right now. I was writing it while we were, kind of putting all this together. Well, the NFL wants to have annual revenue of $25 billion by 2027, which is only a couple years away. You throw in Netflix and streaming and international, Australia and Dublin, Ireland. It's such a big show, but in the end, you've got to have a great game, and what a game this should be on Sunday.
And it does throw. I can never tell. As I go through the week, I'm terrible for flip-flopping between who's going to win. I have been the 10 years I've been coming to the Super Bowl, or the 10 I've covered, every time I convince myself one way or the other. But this is. I feel like this isn't Radio Row-itis.
I agree.
I feel like this is truly two teams that, from a matchup perspective, strength hits strength, weakness hits weakness. They're almost built to beat each other, and it's going to be one of those games which comes down to just one or two plays, that comes down to just some basic execution.
Or a ref.
I mean, honestly.
Or a ref. Or a yellow flag.
Do you know what? Not that much ref chat this week, which has been nice.
There hasn't been. I thought it'd be a whole week of bias and hate. The NFL did a good job. Roger Goodell did a good job coming out early and saying the whole thing's ridiculous, and the media kind of sometimes follows the way of the arrow pointing, and the media just all of a sudden forgot about the ref bias. We'll see if that's the case on Sunday.
But when they played 2 years ago, it came down to a ridiculous kick return, a fumble in the first half, which probably just gave the Chiefs that momentum, and I'd argue the two Mahomes runs probably. Yeah. Like, there are two or three moments.
And a tug on a jersey,
right?
A tug on a jersey late.
A tug on a jersey. There are two or three moments that really define it, and I think that's what we're going to see again on Sunday. I think it's going to be a great game, but it's going to be a great game which is defined by two or three core moments which will swing the pendulum one way or the other.
They're so evenly matched, right? I mean, Kansas City, okay, defensive line, I give the edge to the Eagles, running back the edge to the Eagles. You can go down the list. Defense, Eagles. Overall offense, Eagles. Here's the problem. I was just speaking to one of the lead writers for The Athletic, who I go way back with, and we were going through all this. And we can say all that, right? I officially picked the Eagles for talkSPORT professionally. However, two things separate the Chiefs, and this has been the case all the time.
Just to be clear, not for all of talkSPORT.
For me.
He speaks for himself only.
Two things separate the Chiefs, though, and this has been the problem from day one. The quarterback position, which is the most important position on the field and the most important position in pro sports, and the head coach. Andy Reid is a better head coach than Nick Sirianni. I don't trust Nick Sirianni for 4 quarters. At some point, Nick Sirianni is going to make a call that negatively affects the game, and Patrick Mahomes is a magician. He is Showtime Mahomes. And so I can say Eagles, 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 but Will, if it comes down to the final 2 minutes and the refs are a little pro Kansas City, jokingly, I expect Patrick Mahomes to win that game. I expect them to be the first team ever to win 3 straight Super Bowls. You're a fool. We said this all year. We've doubted them. You're a fool if you doubt the Chiefs. All they do is win. But I've got to go with facts, and facts tell me Philly's going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Who do you have? Who do you have?
I've got the Chiefs. I just can't. I can't get past the history. I can't get past the moment. I can't get past the Mahomes of it and the Reed of it. And there are elements, and we sat here with Jourdan and Greg earlier in the show, and they were absolutely right. Like, one of the least talked about elements from this game, because everyone wants to focus on Saquon and Mahomes and the lines, is that actually the Chiefs secondary is not very good.
It's not.
And the Eagles wide receivers are really, really good, like Devonta Smith and AJ
I thought along with saying along,
like,
if Jalen Hurts, if you have NFC Championship Jalen Hurts, the Eagles, again, they should win this game, because if Jalen Hurts can stretch the field, if you can get A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert, if you can get all of those, all that talent involved with a really good offensive line, and Saquon Barkley running everywhere, how do you stop that offense? Except you have Patrick Mahomes, you have Andy Reid. What if the Chiefs win it and Tom Brady has to call it, and Patrick Mahomes is literally taking his mantle from him on live TV? Tom Brady's going to sound a little nervous. Not like he sounded nervous the entire year, Will.
I'm a huge fan of that. I hadn't even thought about it. But the reason I come down to the Chiefs is because when I go back and I watch back those Super Bowls, and I really go think about the times we've covered them over the past 4 years, other than when it went just explosively wrong against the Bucs, when they had so many problems with their offensive line, and they are the healthiest they've been all year, barring Rashee Rice still being on IR. Every other position they are pretty much healthy at now. They are a team who just know how to manipulate the offense, who know how to call plays to pull you one way and then send it the other. And every time I think back to last year against the 49ers, the 4th and 1 call where they run that jet sweep that they've run the whole game, and the whole 49ers defense bites, and Mahomes goes, yep, I'm tucking that, I'm running, I'm going for 15. Like, they did it against the Eagles.
He's such a smart player, and Andy Reid is such a smart coach, man. And I have thought about this, too. Like, I don't feel confident picking the Eagles. I need to. I should. If I had to bet everything I own, I'm betting it on the Chiefs, right? That's the only sure bet. What scares me if I'm the Eagles is Andy Reid's had 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. The Chiefs have had 2 weeks. They're healthy. They're rested. They sounded so confident on media night, right? Like it was like a heavyweight fight. They want to take the title again. They don't want to give it up. And Andy Reid with 2 weeks it's like a bye week. He's really, really dangerous.
But you know what's funny about that is that I kind of talked myself into this with Bill Belichick, is that everyone went, oh, you don't want Bill Belichick to have 2 weeks to prepare for a game. And I'm like, no, for me, what you're doing there is taking away what is one of his superpowers, in that he's so good at game planning that actually giving the other guy 2 weeks
to prepare,
it like closes that gap a little bit.
Yeah.
But with Andy Reid, I don't know. He's just going to pull out some running play from 1962
What I feel like Andy Reid should be able to do
is
is you have DeAndre Hopkins, you have Pacheco, you have Hollywood Brown. You have so many receiving options. You have Travis Kelce. You have Noah Gray. The running back situation has concerned me about Kansas City all season, but they have enough to mix and match, and they don't need a Saquon Barkley. That's not their primary position. If Andy Reid can dial it up with 5 or 6 receivers and Mahomes is on, I mean, if Patrick Mahomes throws for more than 300 yards, Jalen Hurts has to match him, and I just don't know at this point that Jalen Hurts can do that, Will, and that's my concern. Jalen Hurts has got to be Super Bowl MVP. You know, like Saquon Barkley can run for 80 yards and a touchdown, they will survive. Defense holds the Chiefs to 24 points, they will survive. Jalen Hurts is the difference maker for me in this game. If he is just meh, Chiefs have history. If he is good, if he is NFC Championship good, that's how the Eagles do it. They have to be dynamic, and they have to have more weapons than the Chiefs have and Andy Reid has.
Look, Brian, I can't wait. Sunday night, live on
I wish it was right
talkSPORT.
now. I wish we could do it right now.
Truly. Although I don't know if I'm fully prepared yet.
You need to get the voice back.
Yeah. Saturday is rest day, I promise you. We will be calling the game live on talkSPORT this Sunday night from 10:30.
And what, you have Greg doing it. I mean, the whole show. We have everything at talkSPORT.com, the Facebook page, the YouTube channel. We've been building this. I've enjoyed this. We've been building this all year for this. We've really picked up steam in the last couple of weeks, and now we're here.
It's a moment of pride for all of us, but we've got to get it over the line first.
Yes.
A little bit like the Chiefs and the three-peat. It's not going to be good enough to get to the game. We've got to win the game as well, and that's what we'll be doing. live on the YouTube channel on Sunday night at talkSPORT End Zone, live on the radio on talkSPORT in the UK and over in Ireland on the app as well. So please get involved, get in touch. Just keep enjoying all this brilliant content that Brian's putting out at .com, that the guys are putting out on the YouTube channel. So many great interviews this week. It's been phenomenal. And we'll see you on Sunday night when we find out who takes the big game. Super Bowl 59 live on talkSPORT.